Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with a very special guest,
Josh Creedon.
Yay!
Hello.
I always like to have them pronounce their name at least once.
Yeah, just in case. Creedon, whatever. Creedon, yeah.
Cool. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Sweet. So do you use a stage name?
No, it's just Josh Creedon. Yeah, I feel like it's simple enough. Don't need to change it or anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. It's straightforward.
Nice. So how long have you been doing comedy?
Not long. Well, pretty new, like 3.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Started in Denver, and now I was there for like a year and a half.
Wow.
And now I'm in New York City, and I'm just back in San Diego for the holidays. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but not long. 3.5.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody has their own journey.
Yeah. How about yourself?
This is year 6.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. Have you been in San Diego the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. I did an open mic or a couple open mics in San Francisco when I visited a while ago. And sometimes I go to LA, but just kind of stop going because it's a drive.
Yeah,
and then you
it's
go
a
there
trek.
and you don't even get up. And it's
Right. Yeah. I've never done any mics in LA. I don't know what those are like, but I imagine they're
very competitive.
sure. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Do they cost? Do you have to pay for those or no?
Yeah, some of them like during the day.
Oh, okay.
Which it's nice for like a San Diego comic because you can go there, perform in front of other comics that don't know you.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're more like closer to a real audience.
Yeah. 100%.
Maybe see people that don't want to laugh and then
Right.
get them to laugh. And then,
Right. Feels good. It's a good way to test material for sure. Yeah.
So how does the Denver scene compare to New York?
I mean, obviously way smaller. Denver, I think, was a really great place for me to start because the mics are a lot like they are here, like with real people. Yeah. So you could test your material pretty well, and you can like get it off the ground a little bit faster than maybe at just mics with just comics. Yeah. So I think that I really liked it. I started like right after on the tail end of COVID, so a lot of the old heads like hadn't come back out yet, so it was just a bunch of new people who had a lot of like energy and like wanted to get things started and stuff like that.
Wow.
And they also were just really good comics, and like they cared a lot about like all my friends in Denver were like big New York comedy fans, like that style, just very well written. And so we just kind of had a good group of folks, and yeah, it was awesome. It was like a small group. You get to know everyone pretty quick, and it was really fun. It was a good community. Everyone who's still in Denver is like crushing it. Like definitely, I go to New York, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to New York. And then everyone who stays in Denver is like getting 15, 20 minutes of stage time, like way more stage time than me, way more everything, more notoriety in the scene, more all of this stuff. So it feels like it was like a trade down for a second. Hopefully it's it's a longer term gamble, so hopefully it pays off. But in New York, it's like the scene is unreal, like based on really depends borough to borough, right? Like I don't spend a lot of time in Brooklyn. I'm mostly in Manhattan, so I know a lot of Manhattan open mic like comics there. But in Brooklyn, I mean, there's hundreds of people I've never seen or met or whatever. It's like you can't get a grasp on the entire scene. It's just way too big.
Right.
Which is good in a way because you can go to mics in different boroughs and test your material, but also each borough is so different politically. You could say certain things in a Manhattan mic that if you said at a Brooklyn mic, everyone's going to be like, whoa, I can't believe you said, so it's you gotta.
Okay, how does San Diego
it's
compare
weird.
to that?
San Diego's more freewheeling, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely more.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, but
like going to somewhere and people being set.
Yeah.
Saying stuff.
I think in LA maybe you can do that too sometimes, but like, yeah, it just depends. Like topics or whatever, some people just don't want you to touch that or whatever. It is more like a little more politically charged, which probably means okay. So if you're doing a politically charged joke, go to Brooklyn because that's a crowd that if it works there, it's a great joke. Yeah. So you should just continue doing it anyways. But it can be a scary thing to do sometimes. And
Sure.
but yeah, so New York is just way bigger. Still, obviously, great friends there.
Yeah.
But because there's so much and the top of the ladder's there, you feel like you're getting nowhere. I mean,
Sure.
I've been there for longer than I've been in Denver. And I feel like my motion in Denver was way more than in New York. Like, I'm still just doing mics in New York. I'll get booked at, every now and then. But, like, compared to my friends in Denver who stayed, it feels like I'm falling way behind. But also, the environment's different. The people you meet are different. And it's just a longer term investment. So hopefully it pays off eventually. But
Cool.
yeah.
So what is your writing process?
I still need one.
Okay.
I really don't like. I try earlier on. I tried to like write out the jokes, but then, and like as I was gonna say them, but then when I say them on stage, it just feels like I'm reciting it. And so I don't really like that. I want it to sound more conversational. So really what I'll do is like if I think of something, first off my rule is if it makes me laugh, if I'm just thinking about whatever and it makes me laugh out loud by myself, I have to say it. Because that means I at least found it funny in a very real way. So I need to try that on stage. Even if I look back at it and I was like, I don't know if I like it anymore, I still need to try it because it made me laugh once.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of times I'll think of stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, that's funny. But I didn't even laugh thinking about it. I just thought conceptually that's funny. But if it didn't make you laugh, maybe it's not funny. Because that's the point, is the laugh, right? So I'll do that, and then I just write down like a short snippet in my phone to make me remember the idea. And then before I go up at a mic or whatever, I'll just write down 2 or 3 words to make me remember the idea. And then I'll just try and say it as I thought of it, which is generally more conversational. I'm not really a big like setup punch guy. So that's kind of the process. It's very loose. And like I said, it's like I'm super early into comedy, so I'm sure that will iterate time and time again. But that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Right. So if someone asks you how many minutes you have, what do you tell them right now?
It's weird. I'd have like I would have had like a better answer when I was in Denver. Right. Because I was doing shows there, and I was there for a year and a half, and I was starting to get like 15 minutes on stage, and I had done like 17. I had done one terrible show that was 23 minutes, but I only did like 2 jokes in that. It was a nightmare. Now I'd say I probably have like 25, maybe half an hour. I mean, it's hard to say because in New York, the way I'm doing, because I'm so mic heavy, that I'll like, let's say I have 5 minutes and I try it at mics for like 2 weeks. Okay, I don't have a show to try it at. I'm still just doing mics. So I'll just move that in the back of the queue, and then I'll just try to write new stuff or whatever. So who knows what stuff I've amassed that I haven't even been able to try at a show. Because when I do get booked on a show, I want to do my AA material that's proven because I want to get booked again, right? So there's newer stuff that's been crushing at mics, but I haven't moved it to show yet because I don't get booked enough to like, well, let's try some new, Right. So it's this weird sort of dance that once I do start getting booked, like more and more and more, then I can like try that new stuff and I can really be sure, like, okay, I definitely have 20. I'm pretty confident that I have 20. 25, maybe 30, but it's all just about trying to work it out in front of real people instead of just comics. Because you could write a lot of new stuff in front of comics, but have never tried it. Like there's stuff I've completely forgotten about that I really liked at open mics, but just I haven't tried them on a show because when I get on a show, I'm not risking it. I'm doing my best stuff. I'm not doing a new joke. So
yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what do you think? What would you describe your style of comedy?
Like dark adjacent, kind of.
Okay.
Because I'm not like the logistics of darkness, maybe. Like if that makes sense. I'm not joking about, like, I'm not raunchy. I don't really do sex anything. I don't really swear in my act. But I'll joke about dark topics and the logistics that go in behind it.
Right.
So, have you seen the Saw movies?
No, not really.
Okay, well, I don't want to. Well, are you ever planning on watching them? I don't want to.
Probably not.
Okay, so at the end of the first Saw movie, they wake up and they're tied to a radiator and there's a dead guy in the middle of the floor, right? These two people need to try to escape. A guy cuts his leg off to get off, whatever, right? At the end of the movie, the dead guy gets up, reveals himself to be the evil mastermind behind the whole thing or whatever, right? And I think that's funny because he was pretending to be dead the whole time, and you just know that before he laid down to pretend to be dead, he was like, okay, so I went to the bathroom, I have all my stuff, do I need to do anything? The camera's rolling. Like, you just had he went through a checklist in his head, and then he like laid down and was like, okay, now I'm dead. And also, like, how long was he laying there pretending to be dead while they're still knocked out? Like, is he like on his phone and then they're like waking up and then he has to, like, stuff like that. Like, that's a dark-ish joke. Like, it's about a dark topic. It's about a horror movie. It's about, and that's not a joke that I do. That's just a thought I had the other day. Yeah. But that's like dark adjacent. Like, you got to think about the logistics that the evil person is thinking about. And I think that's funny to think about the evil mastermind thinking about logistics. I just think is funny. So I do a lot of stuff kind of about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll try to turn that into a bit, but it seems like a lot of setup. Like, if people haven't seen Saw, it might be too much. It might not be fast enough. So I don't know if I want to try and do it on stage, but
right. I guess just the whole concept of dark adjacent, I guess, is interesting. So do you ever talk about your real life or?
Almost never.
Okay.
I did do a joke about therapy recently, but yeah, really no, not much.
So do you think you'll ever do that, or?
I hope so. I mean, I guess it's weird because right now I'm happy with kind of the material I'm doing, but I think in order to connect, I probably should to connect with audiences better. I don't really do it too much because I feel like my attitude is like, you don't care about me. Like, you don't know me. You don't care that I was at the grocery store the other day. You don't care about my relationship with my parents. You don't care about that. Like, who cares? Like, just make me laugh. That's like kind of my attitude. Like, I don't think they care about me because why would they? I'm just a stranger on stage. So I'm just going to try and make them laugh with observations that we can all. It's not going to be like, well, I had a hard day the other day because my girlfriend or whatever. Yeah, it's just like, right. That's just. I'm cynical, I guess, but I'm just like,
yeah.
You know,
I think, yeah, I think you could merge talking about real stuff and dark adjacent.
Sure. I mean, I think that is the.
I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you had a very easy life. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the other weird thing is I kind of have. I grew up here in San Diego. Sure. I went to school outside Chicago. It was great. I went back to San Diego for COVID for a few months, and then I went out to Denver, and now I'm in New York. Really hasn't been like a ton of tragedy. Everything, I was never molested. You know, everything's been great, and it's just like everything's been pretty good. So it's kind of a weird thing where it's like, yeah, my struggle is like not super. I have my own personal like emotional struggles or whatever. Yeah. But it's not like this, you know. So many, like, a shocking number of my friends in New York have dead parents of some sort, you know? Yeah. It's just like either by suicide or accident or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's a struggle. Right. I'm not going to be like, yeah, my grandma, I did have a joke about this, about my grandma dying, but she died at 102. So, like, you know, we're like shocked. It was like, yeah, she should have been dead a long time ago. So it's like, that's about my life, I guess, in a way, but it's not like a suffering or anything really. It's just, but you're right. I think when hopefully I get better and I can merge my life with that sort of, and I'm not like intentionally being dark adjacent. That's just what I think about. It's not like I'm trying that, but
for sure, like I'm trying to talk about my real life more.
Yeah,
and it's just not easy because it's like almost like starting over sometimes.
Oh, interesting. In what way?
Well. Like, I guess trying to make it funny, you know, like. Because
to you, it's not funny. It's just like your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I make other people see this? Yeah. How do I even see it as funny?
Yeah. Like, I guess too, like, it's starting to like, I used to just like write down exactly what I was going to say and then not word for word, but kind of follow it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then, but now I'm like, currently I'm just kind of like going up there, oh, let me talk about I had a kissing cousin.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and just see how many different ways I can make that funny.
Right. Yeah.
You know, without it really all written down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, not only am I talking about my real life now, I'm now trying a new style.
Yeah.
Or it's like two things at once.
Yeah.
Maybe
Going off of this like instinct.
yeah,
Maybe.
it's too much. I mean, there definitely are times where you're riffing and it's like, you know, as a comic, you're kind of like a magician,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody has an idea that you probably have at least thought about these thoughts before.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but the trick is, oh, we're here in this room, we're all
Mm-hmm.
having fun. I'm just coming up with ideas off the top of my head,
Yeah.
and you're finding them funny.
Right.
You know, just how people look, their interactions. You know, it doesn't even have to be really crowd work. You know, it can just be superficial
Right.
crowd work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like some other comic on the show or open mic was talking about this, and then you can
Right. Use that as
it's almost
jumping
like
point.
a shortcut to a callback and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jeff Foxworthy says, I know Jeff Foxworthy, I think it's an I Am Comic, which is like an awesome, like my favorite comedy documentary. It's on
Yeah.
YouTube. And he says like every person has the thoughts that a comic has, but the comic just learns to catch it and like notice it.
Yeah.
Because no one else has a reason to remember those thoughts. Just like thought and it's gone. You know, they've got whatever else they've got going on. But for us, it's like we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to try to remember these weird thoughts that make people laugh, that make us laugh.
Yeah.
And so it's like everyone has it. And that's why so much comedy is like relatable. Someone's like, oh yeah, I have felt that, but they've never spent time putting it into words so that when they hear it, there's just an instant connection.
Yeah, definitely.
I think talking about your personal life is like definitely a good way because it is a pretty, we're all different from each other, but we're not like that different.
Yeah.
So there's a way to, you know, it will be relatable in some.
Yeah, I
extent,
definitely
you know.
struggle with like, you know, you get off the stage, especially like an open mic, and someone makes a joke about, you know, how you look and or whatever. Like, oh, that guy looks like a pedophile.
Classic.
Or, you know, that's never actually followed through or whatever.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not gonna talk about. I don't know how to like. I understand what they're saying, but I don't feel like I don't know how to say that on stage. You know what I mean? And I don't.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to. You know, like.
Well, yeah, it's a weird thing to talk about that too. Is you to say like I know I look like a pedophile without the gumption to follow through. It's like a weird thing because like that could be funny, but also it's like pretty risky to call yourself
Right.
something. I was actually thinking about this last night. I did the mic here last night, and I was thinking about this on the drive home. I was like, what if? And it made me laugh out loud. So I'm gonna need to try it, I guess, sometime. But I don't really know how. But being like, because sometimes you talk about risky topics or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And just so sometimes I want to like set up the crowd and be like, okay, listen, this next one is gonna be a little tough, but I need you guys to trust me. Okay, do you trust me?
Right.
You're like, I'm a good guy. Just trust me that this is going somewhere, okay? I get everyone on board and just get everyone to be like, right on board. Be like, okay, great. I am a rapist. And so you just say like the word, but you got everyone to buy in already. So then you just say I'm a rapist. And that's awful. That's like the worst that you could possibly say. But just it feels so the contrast of being like, I get that this is going to be hard. Could everyone just trust me? And just getting everyone to buy in and then saying the worst possible thing. I think that's very funny.
Sure.
But that's also super risky because other people are going to be like, no, like that's not, you can't. There's no reason for you to say that.
There's a lot of places in New York you can't do that, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah, a lot. In Manhattan you probably could. Well, especially here's the problem is like in and this is why I probably wouldn't try it at a mic is because, and it's risky to then try it on a show for the first time,
Right.
because mics in New York are only comics, right? It's only comics. So it's all your friends. It's all people you know. So to say, all right, this is hard. I need you to trust me. Everyone would be like, we know you. What do you mean? Like, this is weird. Like that setup wouldn't connect with open mic audiences, comics in New York. Here, I could probably do that because no one knows me.
Yeah.
So I could do that here and be like, all right, you just trust me. And then you say that. I mean, that's like my last joke that I did, which I've been doing for a long time, is kind of like a hacky. If my last joke doesn't work and I have 10 seconds left, I'll just say I was going to do some other pedophile stuff, but I do not see any kids here. So I'm going to do that later offset. And it's like, that's just me saying I'm a pedophile. It's terrible. It's like the worst. That's like the worst thing you could say about yourself, you know? But because you just say it in a way that's so casual, and that's another thing in terms of being dark adjacent, is you talk about dark things, but in a very casual, like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And that contrast, I think people also find funny. So, yeah, it's kind of, which makes it fun. But also, if people don't listen to the tone and don't trust you, then it's just awful. I mean, that's what comedy, so much of comedy is just saying terrible stuff. And that's why open mic comedy is even the worst, because it's terrible stuff that isn't even funny yet. It's just terrible. Yeah. And so that could be really hard to figure out how to do.
Yeah, I try to tell people, your first joke, you need to really be solid, and they need to like trust that you're funny. Mm-hmm. And then you can go into controversial and dark. I mean, your first show can be dark, but just have it be funny, more funny than dark.
Right. Just you got to get their buy-in.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, because otherwise, it's going to be rocky the entire time, and they don't trust you, and they think you're just using the jokes as an excuse to say terrible things, and which some people definitely are. But sometimes the problem is with comedy, saying terrible things is hilarious. It's funny to say the thing you're not supposed to say. Sure. Obviously it needs to be done in a way, you can't just go up and say slurs immediately or whatever, but
right.
You got to figure out how to make it funny, but that's the whole craft, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have this joke where I'm like, I kind of say it in a nerdy voice. The problem with these hoes.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Is they don't know how to wash their pussy.
Yeah.
And then I just like go off on this like thing that really, if you listen to it, they're like, oh, he's just talking about OCD behavior.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it's just changing the vernacular with your tone and stuff like that. So it's just creating contrast wherever you can. It's like the funny part.
So so that's fun to do. But I'm trying to like figure out. Like, even though those things are fun. It's like, well, I'm trying to like figure out a way for when the audience members like are talking to me in real life, they're not like, oh, you're so different on stage.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, I'm playing a heightened version of myself. I'm being silly.
Right.
It's like, and other comics sometimes that don't really understand. They're like, oh, why don't you just be yourself? You're funny, and I'm like, well, you don't understand. We've been talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
And now I finally made you laugh out loud.
10 minutes.
Like, what? Are you not getting it?
Right. That's too long. I can't do 10. I can't, they don't say make sure to get your first laugh within 10 minutes. It's always like within 10 seconds, get a laugh, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I definitely have, like, at least for me, like, learned to, like, sell the jokes. Last night I was like walking this tiny stage, and I'm looking at the audience and walking around.
Right. Yeah.
I'm being dynamic, trying to get their attention. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something I'm not good at that at all. I'm really here, stand, that's it. That's really all I do, and it's like
not for everybody,
right? But I think it'd be good. I think what you're doing is good, because that's at least you have that tool, right? And you could choose when to enact it and when to not. If you just stand here, it could be good in terms of like your writing has got to be great in order for that to like crush. But like also it could, if you have good writing and then you use dynamics like that, then it's even better, So it just feels like not having that as I shouldn't say not like a crutch, but like not as good as you could be if you're doing that. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's just about finding your comedy voice.
Mm-hmm.
So did you let's see. I guess you kind of answered that. All right. So, who's the funniest person in your life right now? It doesn't have to be a comedian.
Funniest person in my life right now. That's a dangerous question. I'm surrounded by a ton of comedians. I can't. If I just say
one. You
one.
don't have to answer any of these questions.
Yeah.
They will get you in trouble.
I
mean, like, are your friends really going to watch this podcast?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, none of my friends.
Like, that's it. Oh,
yeah, I don't
it's
know.
not a podcast. I bet it was dumb.
It's hard to say.
It could be. You could make up someone.
I talk with my friend. It's weird because there's like different levels of laughing, right? Like my best friend from middle school can make me laugh in a different way than any of my comics can. But it's stuff that like other people probably wouldn't find funny, but he and I do. Or like a good friend of mine from college, she makes me laugh a whole lot, but like, again in different ways.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah, probably those people. It's also weird because it's like they've been in my life for so long too, so they just have like a. Yeah, I don't know. Just personal friends probably are the ones that. Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. Personal friends probably are the ones that.
Right.
And that's not to say that my comedy friends aren't my personal friends too, but just yeah, probably just personal friends that aren't even doing comedy make me laugh a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is very nice to have that for sure.
All right. We probably both know the answer to this question. I asked it to everybody. When did we meet?
When did we meet?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I don't know if we both know the answer to this question because we met over a year ago.
Okay.
The first time. I mean, we obviously met again last night.
Right.
But we had met a year prior. I think I did ACC open mic, and then I was doing a show. I got booked on a show here.
Oh, okay.
And I forget who booked me. Josh something. Used to be more involved in booking shows here.
Yeah.
And he called you over to watch my set, and we met immediately right after then.
Oh, okay.
I did forget your name, but I was reminded of your name last night. But that was the first time we met.
Okay. Cool.
And then we met again.
Yeah, because I watched one of your TikToks. I mean Instagram. And I'm like, oh yeah. At first, actually, I was like, oh, that sounds like a joke I already heard before. And they're like, wait, because I've seen him on stage before.
Yeah, might have been me. Yeah.
You know?
Wait, which one had you heard about? I'm just glad anything stuck, frankly.
Kind of like the Dark Adjacent. Like, about this the slave.
Oh yeah.
Slavery ended.
Yes. Yeah. The business consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's. Oh yeah. Well, glad that anything stuck. But yeah. So I think you might have heard that joke.
Yeah.
At the ACC open mic, because I come back like maybe 2 to 3 times a year, and so I'll just kind of swing through and do whatever mics I can get on. And I feel like I forget how San Diego works with the mic system every time. So then I got to come back in and be like, all right, when are mics? Where are mics? What does he do? It's hard to get keyed in and like stay keyed in on that. So
yeah,
each time I come back,
a spreadsheet for the open mics.
Oh, nice. Is it a reliable spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Because in New York we have a spreadsheet. There's like thousands of mics on it or whatever, and like they're all wrong. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty reliable.
Sweet.
I kind of try to help keep it reliable, but Mike McCullough keeps it pretty up to date.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then I have like a meetup group called San Diego Comedy Live.
Oh, cool.
Which has a lot of the free shows.
Oh, nice.
Mics. I mean, it's like at first I was just putting everything up there, and then I was like learning how meetup works, and like they get mad if the host isn't even there. So even though like the event's actually going, you know what I mean? Like
right.
I don't like get weird about it. So I'm trying to like balance that, like you'll flag you if you put 2 mics at the same time that are like across town from each other, and you're the host of both.
Oh,
it's like,
interesting.
Well, how could you possibly be at both of them?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess
that's why I know the people. But then the trick is like to get those people that are running the mic to join the meetup group, and then
right, then
make them
the owner. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good way to figure out where these places are. Yeah, it's always changing too.
Exactly. There's Facebook groups that help. I have a Facebook group too. The same name, San Diego Comedy Live.
Oh, cool.
People put their open mics and shows. up there. Really, I'm trying to like get it to be not just comics on there, to get like comedy fans to join.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. To know where to
That
check
is
stuff out.
so hard.
Yeah.
They don't join usually.
Yeah, that's the
There's
nature of
some, but
all of comedy is just trying to get fans somehow. It's like how do you do that? You know.
Yeah.
So
Bright got an ad.
Right.
Bright. Yeah, I have a show on Fridays and Saturdays called Quantum Brewing.
Oh, cool.
Close to Mic Drop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that kind of. I mean, if people are on shows, then they probably go to the better show.
Yeah.
But if they're not, they can come be on my show. And it's also an open mic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So do you wish you started comedy earlier?
I don't know. I feel like it'd be weird to say no, but my first mic ever was when I was 21, and then I count my start date at 25 because I did one mic. I took a class at Second City when I was in Chicago. Did like 2 more mics, but I didn't like start going to multiple a week until I was 25.
Okay.
And so there's something nice about being older because, I mean, 25 is definitely not old, but like when you're 21 or in your teens or whatever, it's really hard to, I think, like make jokes about things that people will find relatable or are not just like just trying to be offensive for offensive sake or whatever. Right. So I do think there's a benefit in starting a little bit later, but I would never tell anybody to hold off necessarily. Sure. I would never be like, oh no, don't start at 21. I kind of think like 21, 22 is like almost the perfect time to start.
Right.
But if you're like 16, 17, again, it could do great. Like Maddie Weiner started at like 16. Taylor Tomlinson started at like 16. Like, also both women more mature faster than guys. So maybe if you're a dude, I'm like start at 21, and if you're a lady, start once you have your period. I don't know, start because now you're a woman. You can get out there and start making people laugh. He's just more mature or something. I don't know, but like they handled it really well.
Yeah.
And they're both obviously crushing it. So, yeah, I think I wish I had started earlier. Just been more consistent earlier.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Chicago, that would have been cool to start there.
Cool.
But
yeah. Another goal of the podcast is try to encourage people to go see live comedy.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Go see live comedy.
Yeah, please. I will say last night at the mic here, there was I went up like 45th or whatever, and there were like 12 real people here or more, like real people in the audience. It was awesome. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's like a legit show in New York. Like, there's no way I'm getting that at any mic for sure.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah, super cool. That's one way to keep the mic going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Do you have any hobbies or passions that is related to comedy?
Related to comedy?
It's not related.
Oh, not related to comedy. Oh, I disc golf a lot. Not as much as I'm in New York City, but originally why I moved out to Denver from here was for disc golf, because they just have a lot more courses out there and a lot more variety and a lot more. And my college roommate and I were both super into it, and he lived in Denver. So disc golf is probably a pretty big hobby of mine, and I'm playing almost every day now that I'm back out here. So yeah, that's probably it. I played not like a super high level or anything, but I was okay, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, there's none of that in New York City, but
sure.
Yeah, that's probably the one hobby I'd say. But in New York, no other hobbies. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe you could like start a disc golf course.
There is one disc golf course in Queens that is at a park, and it's like, yeah, people are at this park. You can't throw a disc, like you're gonna just clock some people. It's gonna go bad, but it's so dense. Like if you drive outside the city like an hour or whatever, you'll find something cool. But I don't have a car. One of the benefits of being in the city, in my opinion, is not having a car.
Yeah.
So they're around, but just not in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have like a routine that you're following? Like, oh, it's Monday, so I'm
gonna
do this.
Yeah, sometimes I'm trying to switch it up more recently. But yeah, like Monday there's 2 mics I'll go to. Tuesday there's a couple that I try to go to. Yeah, I'd say there's roughly a routine. Saturday is maybe the most set routine. So I could hit 3 mics that day on most Saturdays.
Or what's the situation? You have to like pay to do it, or
Most mics are pay. Yeah, there's very few mics that you do not have to pay for. And if you don't have to pay for it, it's probably going to be 3 minutes instead of the full 5. Some mics are pay $5 and drink minimum. So you gotta, it ends up being like $15 for a mic. There's one mic that is $14 and a drink minimum. That's at Comic Strip.
Wow.
And
but is it worth it?
Well, so you think it is, right? So, because the guy who runs that mic books a bringer audition show, right? So if you do well, he might ask you to be on your audition show to get passed at the Strip, right?
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea. So you don't go often, but you go to that mic every now and then. You do your hot stuff, because that's a whole new group of people that don't do normal mics. Like if you're a micer, it's too expensive. You can't go every week, right? So they generally get like people who just graduated, just took a class on comedy, and they're going to that mic because that's where they took it or whatever. But they're not in with most comics there.
Okay.
So I can go do my hot stuff, do really well, and then the guy who runs the mic came up to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to do the audition show?" I'm like, "Oh, I would love to, whatever." Do the audition show. It's a 6-person bringer. All my friends are comics. I just need to ask 6 comics to sit through the show. 17 comics for a show, 5 minutes each, to see if you can get past. Nobody got past out of 17 people. And so it's just like, okay, yeah, it was kind of a scam. Because also, like, my friends are comics. They'll go to count as one of my bringers, but I have to pay for them. So I'm paying $20 for a ticket, and it's a 2-drink minimum, and it's all cash. So I end up paying to do this audition show. I end up paying, $200 just for the audition show to not get passed. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Right. So if I had gotten passed, I would say all worth it, But nobody got passed out of 17 people. It's like, well, okay, you're saying no one out of 17 was good enough to get passed? Who are you bringing onto your audition show? Does everyone suck? Or is this just a scam?
Right.
It's like, okay,
the problem about bringer shows.
It's really hard. It's really hard because like if they had passed 2 people, I'd be like, all right, it's hard, but it's legitimate. But nobody, that's a little nuts in my opinion. So it's like, all right, it's just just trying to get money, which being a business in New York is hard. I get it, but you gotta at least don't pass them and don't give them spots. Do something, Like that's totally possible. Just pass, but you're passed. Never put them up. That's within your right as a club. Do that. Wouldn't even do that. It's like, okay, this is crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your goals in comedy right now?
Just think of more stuff. It's always just thinking new material. That's really what my main goal is. I feel like if you just think about more material and you keep going out, be funny, be nice, be available. Maybe those are the 3 things I'd say. And so it's like if I'm thinking of more stuff that's good, great. And if I keep going out, if I keep meeting people and I'm nice, opportunities will open.
Yeah.
So it's really like those are my goals. I don't really do like a big like, oh, in 2 years I hope to be on New York Comedy Fest, or I hope to do this or that or the other. Maybe just because I'm scared or because I'm naive or not driven or something. But like, I don't know how helpful that would be for me.
Okay.
I think it's really just about, are you going out? Are you making yourself available? Are you meeting new people?
Right.
Yeah. And that's really what it's about. I think that's kind of the goal. And then you just kind of see where it takes you. Sure. I think I'd be worried if I set a goal to like get a check spot audition in New York Comedy Club, right? Okay, well, what if my path is taking me more towards a different club or more towards whatever thing? If that's my goal, then I don't want to hold on to something so tight that it makes me miss other opportunities. Yeah. So just kind of seeing what is brought before me.
Okay, cool. So are you doing any improv or sketches or?
No improv. If a friend of mine has a sketch that they want me to be in, I'll do it. But I'm not like thinking of sketches. It is another one of those things where like in New York, a lot of my comedy buddies do sketches all the time, like weird, abstract, off the wall, very funny stuff that I just never would have thought of. And they have, like, you know, they're getting like tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, and they're like doing well, like, you know, they're getting some sort of a following from the sketches, not from stand-up at all. Sure. Which is not to say their stand-up's bad, it's just what they're posting is sketches, and they're good. Right. I'm just not really drawn to it as much. I don't really think in that way. I don't really think in sketch, which maybe that's a discipline I should focus on more. But it is weird because it's sketch is a much faster way, and posting online is a much faster way to get a following. So, you know, you could be 2 years into comedy, have 100,000 followers on Instagram because your sketches are great, but your stand-up sucks. Right. And it's like, okay, exactly. What do you want to be? What do you hope to be? And I hope to be a really great stand-up one day. Which doesn't mean sketch would make me not a great stand-up, but just that's kind of where my focus is on stand-up.
Sure, definitely. So thank you so much for doing the podcast. Are you doing other people's podcasts, or?
No, I mean, I haven't been approached by anybody. I'm starting a podcast with a buddy of mine out in New York. Oh, okay. So yeah, are you familiar with the podcast Call Her Daddy? Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, well, it's a very, like, it's two women, very sexual podcast. And my buddy and I are starting a podcast called Call Him Father, because I'm a Christian and he's not. And so we're just reading through the Bible starting off, and he's like an agnostic guy, but is like interested. So we're just talking through the Bible, reading through it, Genesis 1 forward. So that's kind of fun because I'm the Christian guy and he's not. So we're just going to chat about it. And it'll be funny too, hopefully, because he's a comic. He's a great guy. Very funny. Grant Moore. So yeah, that's the only other podcast that I will consistently do. We've got a few in the can. We'll drop them eventually. But
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Check that out. I'm sure they might be out by now.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they're dropping soon. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably come out like January 20th.
This? Oh yeah, we should have one or two out by then.
Yeah, you better watch them all.
Yeah, watch all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, what was your family life growing up?
Pretty basic. Mom, dad, brother. My grandma lived with us. She was very old. So pretty normal. I went to a lot of different schools growing up just because we just moved schools. But I have a good relationship with both my parents. My grandma's dead, which makes sense. And my brother's in Colorado Springs. I mean, nothing really to write home about. Just grew up playing sports, going to church. Kind of pretty middle of the road type stuff. Nothing really crazy.
All right, cool.
Suburbs of San Diego. Yeah.
Sweet. So your family still lives in San Diego?
Yeah, my mom and dad do. Yeah, they're in near La Mesa area, and so I'm staying there. It's great. It's very nice. I get to come back and crash in San Diego, and for the holidays, get away from the winter, and it's great. Yeah. So.
Yeah, either Denver or New York.
Yeah, better than Denver, New York, and definitely better than Chicago too. So.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, where I was for like 6-ish years, I was in that area. Those are the worst winters. So very nice to be back here.
Yeah, snow's just okay to visit.
Yes, 100%. Hard to live in, but
yeah. I'm just imagining. I haven't had to live in snow. Thank goodness.
Oh, did you grow up here or in
I grew up in Santa Rosa.
Oh, okay.
So I moved back here for the better weather.
Sure.
I need the sunshine.
Right, yeah.
It rains too much up north.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Well, this rains like 3 days a year here, so it's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nice.
We just import our water.
Right, yeah, why not? Yeah, if you can do it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, have you ever been in a car accident?
Yeah, I have. I got T-boned. My first car, I was driving in the North Park area, and I had their two-way stop, and then mine was no stop, and so I just kept going, and then a car just didn't see me or whatever, just came in from a stop sign, so it wasn't with a ton of pace, but I got T-bones, totaled the car.
Nice.
And everyone was fine, but was my first car. It was a 1991 Mercedes 190E, just a little tiny white car. Great first car.
Yeah.
And just was like, well, all right, that's that. Was driving it. I was back home for the summer in between college years, right before my senior year of college. So got totaled, then flew out 2 days later back to college. We had no one got hurt, nothing big, but yeah, nothing terrible.
Yeah. Well, so then you just didn't have a car after that, or?
Well, I was in Chicago, so I didn't need a car. And my parents, 2 parents, they have 4 cars. It's like, why do we have so many cars? It's nice when I come back to visit because I always have a car available to me, and then there's just another car also sitting there. So they just always have more cars than we need. So, and they're not like new, nice cars. They're like beaters, We have 4 cars, 3 of them are Avalons, and one like older Lexus. So it's like, they're not like, the Lexus is a nice one, but like the Avalons are 90s, Not great, but available. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Would you ever do a character on stage?
Not of my own volition. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna do a character. Like I'll do like setups for impersonations, like the reel that you saw on my Instagram. I'll do like, this is a character I've been working on, like that sort of thing.
Sure. But
I'm not gonna go up with like a fake mustache on top of my mustache and be like, oh, I'm not really. Probably wouldn't do that unless it was like a special show or something. But that wouldn't be. I wouldn't try to incorporate that into like my career, my desired career of comedy. But I don't know if the right thing showed up, maybe, but I wouldn't want to say no, definitely, but that is not my inclination, I don't think.
Cool. Okay. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
Not getting booked. That's it. I mean, not getting booked. I was in at this club in New York, got passed, was getting good amount of stage time there. And then bookers change, manager changes. They know me, but they've got the people that they like, and they put them up. And all the people that they like me, but the guy who books doesn't really like me that much. It's not like there's animosity or anything, but he's just like, well, I'm just going to keep doing the same people all the time.
Right.
So you just end up not getting booked. And it's like, well, all right, this blows. I got to find different ways of getting booked. There's independent shows, but most independent shows are in Brooklyn, and I don't go to Brooklyn that often. So it's just, it's hard to figure out how to make headway. It's a really long process, and you compare yourself to your friends in other cities who are like crushing it, and you're like, dear Lord, I am falling behind. So not getting booked, and then when you go through dry spells of writing, which I'm sure it's relatable to every comic, is just like, I haven't thought of a good joke in a month.
Yeah.
You're just going back through your old stuff, trying to think of a new tag, but everyone at the mic already knows the setup, so what's the point of adding a new tag? Like, it's not helpful. So there's stuff like that. That's the hard part, I'd say, is all writing, which will always be hard, and getting booked, which is hard right now.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So do you think you're just going to stay in New York, even though?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a 10-year process. So I've been there for 2 years. 2 years in February. And yeah, and that's the thing, is like, it's not fast. Every professional comic that I respect says like it takes at least 10 years to be good. So I'm like,
sure. I just wonder what the balance of like performing in front of real people versus performing in front of comics all the time.
Sure. I think about that a lot. It's hard because when you go in front of real people all the time, obviously it's a great way to test your material, but the bar for how good the material needs to be is much lower. Because if you are trying to make comics laugh, they're not going to laugh as easy. They're not paying attention. They're not whatever. So if you get a room full of comics to laugh at an open mic, unless it's like open mic specific, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about, like just some comic being crazy vulgar just to make comics laugh or whatever. But if it's an actual joke that a crowd could like, if you get open micers to laugh at that, or like other comics to laugh at that, it's probably a pretty good joke. So the bar is much higher, so that when you do bring that to a show, it crushes much harder. And I do think it sucks, it's terrible, and it hurts more. But if you're going up in front of like real people all the time, first off, that feels amazing. It's awesome. But even last night, there were real people here, right? And I was like, I can't do new stuff. Like I need to make these people laugh. I need to, you know, I feel terrible like doing new, especially since I'm not in front of real people that often.
I almost just did material that I know works.
Yeah, because I was like, I want to crush for these people, especially since I don't, you know, in New York it's so different. So, but you know, the bar is lower, and you get that validation of a laugh, and you're like, all right, that's a good joke. But if you took that in front of comics like your friends, your friends are more ready to say, it sucks.
I understand what you're saying, the bar is lower, but at the same time, like, I guess maybe it's just because of how I am, you know, in real life and on stage, that I feel like I have to win over the audience. Like, this guy's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, performing in front of comics, unless I'm riffing and like it's, you know, they know my character already.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like either they're on board or they're not on board.
Right. Yeah, you know? From the jump. Yeah.
It's like sometimes I like performing in front of like some comics and some real people, and I'm like amazed, like the comics are laughing at this material that I've done 100 times.
Right.
How am I? Like how? What is it? Is it just that good?
Right.
That they'll hear it, you know, like my pretzel bit. They hear it again and they're laughing at it still.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just tired of the joke.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that definitely happens. So you get really sick of your stuff. And that's, you know, that's true. Like, and I think that's one of the things that, from my experience, open mics in New York do strip away a lot of performance. Like, if you go up there, if people know you and you're like kind of low key and whatever, but then you get up on stage and you're this big gregarious kind of whatever, a lot of your comics who are your friends would be like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't who you are. This is weird. So what it does is it strips away so much that all that's left is the material. All that's left is what's written, or like written, quote unquote. So it means that for that to work, like, it's got, you know, like I have a friend who's a comic who started with me in Denver, moved out to New York a little bit after I did. Devesh Patel, very funny. He kind of does a character-ish on stage. He's like kind of alty. I'm like a bad critic of his because I love his comedy so much and just him as a person that I will laugh at anything he does. I'm not a good person for him to perform in front of. If he's testing out new material, don't test it in front of me. I'm going to love it. Because like you were saying, I'm bought into him as a character. Like, you need people who are not bought in so that when you can win them over, you're like, oh, that's a good joke. You know what I mean?
And also, like if you're not practicing, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm on a different path, because it feels like if I'm not practicing selling the jokes and performing,
right, how
am I ever going to get so good at it?
Right. And I feel like that's what I need to practice more on, is the selling aspect, because I don't sell too much, and I think I could be better if I did.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm like a big premise guy. I'm like, if my premises are good, and that's why all my jokes are 40 seconds long, because it's like I have a nice premise, I have a good premise, and that's it, and I do not do a good job at like writing it out and all of this stuff. Like, I'm not as good at that. But what I think of are like individual ideas that are funny, and I fail at writing them through to completion, you know?
Right, yeah, just talking to people, I guess, feels like maybe I just wouldn't thrive in New York.
Oh, every scene's different. Every comic's different. Every scene is different.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There's a reason why certain types of comics come out of LA, LA and New York are the two biggest scenes, right? Or Chicago, perhaps. But like, yeah, each scene breeds a different sort of comic because they adjust to whatever their city style is. And And I was, from the jump, even before I started comedy, my favorite comics were all New York comics. So I was like, that's the scene I want to come up in. And I moved there when I was a year and a half into comedy, which a lot of people are like, that's too early or whatever, because I wanted...
Well, I mean, there's people that start in New York.
Exactly, so right. 100%.
That could be any argument.
Yeah, it's a weird argument. It's mostly said by people who never left whatever city they're in, and because of fear or whatever, and they're just insecure about it. But for me, it's like, yeah, that could be seen as early, but like, I want to be known as someone who came up through the New York pipeline. That's how I want to be seen, as a New York comic. Like, I've already been in New York longer than Denver, so I'm technically, although I do think of myself as a Denver comic still sometimes,
sure, I'm
technically like a New York comic. And it's like, and even comic, I'm a New York open micer. You know, it's like, when do you start calling yourself a comedian, all that stuff, right?
I understand the need to have labels and differentiate things, but I don't know. There's things about that. Open micer is almost like a derogatory
term. Yeah, 100%.
Like, we're all performers, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I guess even if a group of comics and one of them brings their friend, or crazy person brings the date or whatever, you know, that's a real person.
Yeah.
You know, and also it's interesting seeing comedy so long. A lot of the people that keep coming back, you can tell that they're audience members, and they keep coming back. No, they really want to be a comic.
They want to do this. Yeah, so many people are like, yeah, I went to like 10 open mics before I tried my first time. It's because they want to try it so bad, and they just see people, and then one comic goes up and they're like, that guy sucks, I could do that, I could do comedy, and they like get excited, and then someone comes up and crushes, and they're like, oh, I'm not good enough, I couldn't do that. Just the reality is, it's like, yeah, it's going to be all over. Open mics are all over the spectrum. I went to an open mic in New York recently, and I texted my buddy. I was like, come on, do this open mic, and he's like 14 years into comedy or whatever, right? And he was like, oh, okay, I had one thought, I guess I'll try it. And his one thought was like a perfectly crafted 5 minutes, and was actually like 5 different thoughts. But he was like, yeah, I guess I'll try something. You know, and I'm like, okay, so that's the difference between 15 years in comedy and 3.5. Is when I have one thought, I'm like, is this anything? And it's like, butter's weird. Is that anything? And he had like 5 minutes, crush, killer stuff.
Did you write that out, or he just...
No, he'd never said it before. I think he was right. It was funny. Right where I was sitting next to him, right before he was going up, and he's like, oh, can I borrow your pen? And so like, he wrote it kind of out like bullet point style, kind of, and he was just thinking of new stuff as he was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes me think of this, makes me think of this. So then he went up, and it was like a really well crafted 5 minutes. It's like, okay, that's the difference between a 15-year comic first thought. That's his first draft, which he'll change and we'll make better. And my first draft is like barely words, you know? And it's like, that's just the difference in time. And I think New York does compress a lot of these, like the comics that I've met doing open mics. Like, I make mics with people who have late night credits. It's like, what are you doing here? But they're just like, yeah, I'm grinding. I'm like trying new stuff out. And it just is like a crazy mentality out there. And I wouldn't even say I need that mentality. I definitely don't have that. Like, I need it. I want to have it. But this grind set like mentality that a lot of people have is like nuts out there. It's crazy.
So what do you think the average person, how many mics
are they doing? Really hard to say, because some people get booked enough so that they're doing enough shows. I'd say maybe like the average, my friends, I'll just say getting up. I won't say just mics, like a combination of mics and shows. My friends are probably getting up on average maybe 12 to 13 times a week, maybe, between mics and shows. But then I have some friends who like work at clubs, and these clubs have crazy amount of shows, and they'll get up like maybe 17 or 20 times in a week. And it's like, and if you're a professional comic and you're working the cellar and you're like hot right now, like a Jordan Jensen type or something like that, yeah, 17 times in a week, like, you know, well, they're gone for the weekend because they're doing their whatever, like headliner, they're doing their clubs or whatever. But like, yeah, the stage time's there. It's just about how do you slide your way into getting it. And a lot of it is coming up through the scene, frankly. Like, people need to know you. If people know you, That's one of the benefits of starting there, coming up there. Because if you just come in out of nowhere and you're like, yeah, I was the best comic in Denver. Now I'm in New York. Everyone's like, kill yourself. I don't care. Like, I have no idea who you are. That means nothing to me. So you just got to start from square one.
Sure.
And it sucks. That's another reason why I went so early.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to give up anything.
Do you ever have like comics just visit and try to get on open mics?
On open mic, sure. Yeah, you can get up on open mics.
Is that helpful or?
When I visited, it's funny. When I visited, I did this mic at Grizzly Pear, which is right down the street from like half a block away from the Comedy Cellar. I did this mic at the Grizzly Pear, and I'm like, I'm doing my hot 5 because no one here knows me. So I'm doing my hot 5. I'm gonna crush. I'm gonna be a new person. Everyone's gonna be like, who is this guy? You know, I do my hot, tight 5. I've been doing comedy less than a year at that point. I do the best 5 I have. Not a second of noise from the crowd. 0. Just complete bomb. I'm sweating. It's terrible. So bad. And I was like, yo, this is the worst. This is terrible. And I go back every Saturday to that mic because it's like, that's the place of my worst bomb ever. One of. And I just got to go back there. And if I do well at that mic, it's like, all right, cool. Because I did my best 5. Granted, I was like less than a year in then. But like, it was helpful in a sense. It was a reality check for sure. Because in Denver, I was like, oh yeah, I'm hot. I'm whatever. And then you come out there and every comic is like, that all sucked. You know, maybe real people would have liked it. Maybe they weren't paying attention. Maybe whatever. But there's just a reality where you just bombed. What do you do to not do that again? Like, bombing is super helpful. You have to bomb. If you're not going to bomb, like, there are comics who are like, yeah, I don't like to bomb. Okay, have fun never getting better. You will never get better if you don't bomb.
Exactly.
So, in New York, you will bomb more than anywhere. So that is why. That is why you end up getting. It feels terrible.
So do you ever have a strategy of this isn't working? Let me try something completely different.
With like the same premise,
or just scrap that joke and do some new thing, or do you just try to pull out of the bomb the whole time?
There's sometimes when I'll be doing like a show or whatever, and again, like, I have a lot of dark material. And so it's kind of scary sometimes. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. One time I was doing this show in Brooklyn, and I was doing a new joke that I was pretty happy. It was doing really well on mics and shows. So I started with this new joke. 20 seconds into the joke, I do an act out of my head being in an oven, burning myself a lot, like Sylvia Plath. That's who the joke's about. And I'm doing an act out of my head in an oven, burning a lot. And I'm 20 seconds in to the set. And I'm doing this. And then everyone's like, this is off-putting. One of my better jokes, by the way. But because I opened with it, everyone's like, what? You're joking about burning your head? Like what are you doing? And then I was like, okay, all right. That was a mistake to open with that. So then I pivoted and I did like cleaner, like lighter material, and then they loved it. Yeah. But I only had like 6 or 7 minutes of that. So then I had like 3 more minutes to end with, and I'm like, okay, don't do... All right, what else do I have? It's because it was all just dark stuff, and they didn't like the dark stuff. So I did good in the middle, and then I bomb open, bomb close, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do. You want to crush open, crush close. Like even at the mic yesterday, I like had a good opening joke, and I kind of didn't do great in the middle, and then I had a great closer joke, and then people were like, "Oh, great set, great set, great set." I was like, "Were you watching the middle?" I bombed in the middle. It was bad. But it doesn't matter. They don't remember. They're just like, great open, great close.
The risky stuff in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes I'll try to pivot out of it, but it's kind of difficult. And this is why I need to do more personal stories or do whatever you're doing. Like, I got to differentiate. Because right now I'm like, oh, you don't like that suicide joke? How about this school shooting joke? Okay, how about this abortion? Oh, man, this is not good. I need to think of something more fun. Because right now it's all that. So...
There's things too that sometimes like forget what I want to do, so like I do like, oh, this is a good time to do this thing I usually do. Like sometimes I go, has that ever happened to you? And like, and that's giving me time to like,
right.
What,
yeah, good
what
burn.
Was I supposed to do after that joke?
Yeah, buys you some time.
Yeah,
that's smart.
So.
Yeah, I need stuff
you
like
have
that.
any-
I know.
you don't have anything
I
like
don't
that
think-
yet?
Do I have anything like that?
I mean, obviously, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Can I just can I just have that? Can I just take? I'll just do that. That
Oh
sounds
yeah, you're in
perfect.
New York. It should be
Yeah,
fine.
no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything like that. I don't really do any crowd work really.
Right.
So
I
no, I
mean,
don't really
and
have
that
anything
was
like
just a defense mechanism. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like,
But
that
it
was
bred
just
something
like,
that works.
oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. Or I don't really remember the first time I did it. Maybe it really went with the joke at the
Right.
time.
Right.
And then I was like, then I took that part of it and slap it. You know, it's just random.
Yeah.
When I'll do it.
Yeah. It's also kind of nice because that you could do that again. You could do it multiple times in a set.
Yeah.
Because it's goofy. So it's not like he already did that. Why is he doing that again? It's like, oh, he's being silly.
Yeah.
It works.
Exactly.
So that's a nice out to have. I don't have anything like that
Yeah.
at the
and then
moment.
Another one is like, I noticed that if I just add, did you know that? And then
That's funny,
a
yeah.
joke, and then I can do a series of them.
Right.
And then an old joke that didn't have that, just add, did you know that?
Right. And because it's in the rhythm,
You know?
it hits better.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's just, I'm still trying to figure out, well, maybe it'll always be where the whole list is different all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm trying to like whittle them down
Yeah.
to like the funniest one.
Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to test that. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
every time getting on stage is just testing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
some comedy songs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I think that's sometimes like why I feel like I'm not doing better is like I'm trying to do too many
You're so
things.
differentiated. Yeah. You've got so many different, so many different pots cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's good to have multiple tools for sure. But also, if you're sharpening like 8 different tools, how sharp are all of them? You know, you got to spend time on each one. So it's hard to know. And that's what comedy, that's the whole process is trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Definitely have like some clean stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I was doing that for a while, and then I was like, a couple times I'm like, wait, I want to stop doing that. I think that's good.
Right.
I need to work on other
Yeah,
stuff.
100%. You start doing, and then you start doing killer bits that work at mics, and they're not hitting hard because it's a mic, and then you're like, that have killed at mics, but then they do shows, and then they come back to my. It's like, you're like, why am I doing this? I'm just risking bombing with this good joke that will then make me think that this joke is not good.
Right.
Why am I wasting my time doing
Yeah.
that? Like, if it's good, it's good. Just leave it alone. Just do it during shows. Unless you think of a new tag or unless you think of whatever, But don't set yourself up for failure like that. Hurt your feelings.
Have you thought about merch at all?
Not really. I only have one. I don't exactly know how I would make it work, but I have a joke about a guy wearing a jacket. On the back of the jacket is a swastika with like a circle and a line through it. And so what I've thought about doing is, I need to spin that joke out to more than it currently is. But what I've thought about doing is making stickers of just the circle and the line. Right? I don't know. We just make that into a sticker, and you can put that on anything. You can put the circle and the line over anything.
Right.
It's a very malleable form of, not derision. What's the word I'm thinking of? Making something illegal. Yeah, it's a you can put that over anything. So I think like that could be an interesting, more fun, like interactive type thing. People could be smart or clever about where to put that. So I've only thought of stickers, but what I've thought more about is how to build like marketing type of, like lists and stuff outside of Instagram. Like if you want to, like let's say I start opening for someone who's doing well at clubs or whatever.
Yeah.
I get these stickers, right? Okay, cool. You could get a sticker for $2, or you could put your email down on this list and I'll give you this sticker for free.
Right.
And you have to write it down. No QR code. You have to write it down. And then you get the sticker for free. That's a lot more work for me if you write it down. But I think
Well, what about entering into a iPad?
iPad, sure. There's that too. I like the physical, right? I think like
right.
you'll remember something better if you write it down. And if someone buys in, if someone like, it's not more work, but it's a different
I've done
experience.
a lot of data entry,
Uh-huh.
and having to read people's handwriting.
It's hard.
So that's the reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm
use
saying.
An iPad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be a lot more work for me if people wrote it out. But I think in terms of what their experience is, people will remember having to write down their email, because when's the last time you had to do that? It's just a slightly different experience than they're used to. And even that slightly different experience in return for a sticker, building email lists, this is like what Kevin Hart did in like the 90s. He would have a yellow legal pad and he would like have people write down their emails for email lists. Email is better marketing than Instagram. It just is. Oh, it's better. It's better indication of who will actually come out to shows, who's actually interested in you as a comic, who's interested in your career. So if you could be like, hey, $2 for this sticker, or email and I'll give you the sticker, that email is worth more than $2 to you, right? So I think more about that. I think more about that sort of stuff, and like how to market in a creative way, in a way that's so saturated with social media, in a way that stands out. I think going backwards and not doing a QR code, not using an iPad, I think that will provide someone an interesting experience. It's like, when's the last time you wrote down your email? Something that wasn't like to PETA or something, you know, like bothering you at the subway or on the street corner.
So would you, or do you look at it and try to clarify, oh, is that an A or is that an E?
No, this is all hypothetical.
Oh.
This is all like, this is what I think about down the line. I don't have any merch. I just think of that as merch. I don't have any, I'm not opening for anyone. I'm not on the road with anybody. This is just something I think about. So these are just ideas that hopefully I will put into practice, or I will realize are retarded and I won't ever do them, you know? So it's like, that's kind of these are just like, just ideation ideas down the road that could or could not work out well. I have no idea. But that's just like, on the business side of stand-up, those are just a few thoughts I've had.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about uniqueness, and there's something about the writing on paper and stuff, but I don't know, even all that, to have accurate data for me and less work, because like, I guess maybe it's just I'm doing so many things. I got the podcast, I got my merch, I got shows, I got, you know, I got to help manage this place, and
you got your hands full for sure.
Like now I have to type people's emails.
Yeah, it sucks. Maybe, you know what? I bet there's got to be an app. There's got to be an app somewhere where you can like take a picture of handwriting and it'll just turn it into something.
Sure, but is it?
There's got to be something like that.
Still,
is it accurate data?
Accurate, sure. Like can you imagine like hundreds of emails.
Well, see, you're assuming a great amount of success with this.
No, I mean,
I'm going to get 2 emails. It's going to take me 2 seconds, and that'll be it. You know.
Yeah, I guess.
You're thinking big. You're thinking what could be, which is great.
Well, I guess it's just the question is like, when are you putting those emails in? Like, are you doing it right away?
It all depends on. Again, so much of this is hypothetical, but it's like if I'm opening for someone on the road and we flew somewhere, flight. What are you doing on the flight? You know, surely if it's a 2-hour flight, you could put in 200 emails.
I'm sure you're like testing the emails.
Well, yeah, I mean, you throw them into a MailChimp or whatever, and then you'll get some that bounce, and they'll bounce, and you'll see the problem. Then you could take them to something like Hunter.io, which tests emails. To see whether they're valid or not before you send, and then you could try different emails close to that or other suggested emails, and then I'm good at finding information. I'm a sales development rep. That's like my day job.
There you go.
And so I can find information about a lot of information about people.
Right.
So that's like one way to do it. Yeah, it's kind of creepy actually. Like there's some websites.
Circumvented the problem.
Well, I hope. But it still is. It all depends on scale, right? Because like you're saying, if you do great and then there's like 50 bounced emails, it's like, oh damn, that's a lot of work, for sure. But you just hope like, hey guys, please write clearly or something. And again, who knows? That whole idea might be complete garbage. So I might be like, oh, that's jacked. Like I might do it once, or no one ever asked me to open for them. So what am I saying? It's like, this is so many steps removed from the reality that I'm living right now. Right. It's like, why am I even thinking about this?
It's hard to collect people's emails because, you know, I have like different ways for them to, you know, right now what's working is Eventbrite. You know,
great way to collect
helps
emails.
That I'm running a show, so
sure.
They're getting a free ticket.
Yeah.
And you know, 50% of the people come, or I don't know what the percentage is. Sometimes it feels like 50%. Sometimes it feels like 10%. Sometimes it feels like 80%. It's just
but you get that email.
Yeah, they got
fat email list,
and I know it's through Eventbrite, so pretty sure it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, or at one point it was real.
Yeah.
But no one's following my link tree. No one's all these other ways of getting people's emails, or no bites on them.
Yeah, it's also hard, I think, too, when you do like an Eventbrite and you're getting an email first and they sign up and they go, but let's say only 60% show up, so that means you got 40% of emails of people who will delete your email. Like they signed to go to your show, but they never went, so now they're like, who's the person? If you're doing like, hey, we have another show or whatever, maybe that does something, maybe it doesn't. They didn't have the experience or the opt-in is something that Louis does, which is why he's one of the best comedy marketers ever. What Louis does is he makes it very difficult for you to get on his email list. He has it like almost hidden on his website, and you have to opt in. A lot of people say opt out because you're automatically opted in, right? So then you have to click opt out. He does the opposite. You're automatically not on his email list. You have to opt in, which means that you doing that is buy-in, meaning I want this, which is why his list of whoever knows how many hundreds of thousands of emails or whatever are all people who are like, I want this email. I'm a fan of yours. So his
I guess it could do that.
The stability. Yeah, absolutely. I think the stability of that.
Email, and then I could send a thing like once.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got your email for a list of ways I could have gotten your email.
Yeah.
If you want to be on my actual newsletter, click this link.
Yeah, 100%. And then if they click the link, that means, and typically what that means is like, okay, so let's say you send that out to 10 people and 2 people click the link. Okay, so 2 people, those are like, relative to the other 8, those are rock solid fans. I mean, fans, but like rock solid people who want your stuff. So that means you can rely on them more. Like there's a book or theory about 1,000 true fans or something. Like if you have 1,000 true fans, true fan meaning someone who will buy, who will partake in anything you put out, any merch you put out, they will buy some of your merch. They will go to a show. They'll whatever. All you need is 1,000, and that can support you as an artist. So Louis has hundreds of thousands. Just this, he could have millions of email addresses, sure, right? But what can he act? What data can he actually like more confidently act off of? The data that's harder that people need to opt into. They need to say, no, I am actively a fan of yours. And it's like, is it harder? Yeah, 100%. But also, he's the best comedian ever, and he also is like, his fan base is like, foaming at the mouth for anything he puts out. He dropped an entire series, Horace and Pete, just randomly on a day. He made a shat ton of money. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't do any marketing. He didn't do any press tour. He just put it out just to see what would happen. And all of his fans are like, I have no idea what this is. I'm buying it. Because his name's on it. Right. It's like, he's become a brand that is reliable for whatever it is. It's not even a comedy show.
Started that way, right? You don't just all of a sudden change how you're doing it.
No, he's been very intentional. I mean, even with earlier, like in terms of selling his own tickets, he set up a ticket selling company so that he wouldn't have to go through Ticketmaster, so that they wouldn't get the service fees. So he could sell out Madison Square Garden at $50 a ticket instead of like $175, $200. Like he makes himself accessible, right? He put out his special on his website for a suggested $5 and was like, hey, just please no one pirate this, please. Please. That's all he said. Just please don't. I mean, I'm sure they did, but like someone's making money off of that. But also he made millions of dollars off of a name your price for his special. Right. That's like marketing. That's marketing and trust, because and where that all comes down to ultimately is material. His material is the best in the world, and that is why he can do that. If you don't have good material, you can't do any of that. Like your material, and again, he's a good performer too. Like this is, sure. He's not just sitting there saying it. He's an incredible performer with the best material. Combines those two. That's why he can do everything he does, which
Right.
anyone else doing that is like insane, you know?
Yeah, that's what it feels like for me. Like the better material comes more naturally when I'm trying to sell the joke.
Yeah.
That helps me come up with tags. And,
Yeah, that's a good point because you're like in it.
yeah,
You know?
'cause it's
Yeah.
real. It's
Yeah.
real.
That's a great point.
Especially like
Yeah.
now I'm like talking about like how as a teenager I punched this other teenage girl in the stomach because she was a bully.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Standing up to the female bully.
and I'm like, you know, and it's interesting, you know, because now I'm gonna have to listen back, or maybe just keep doing this, you know, and like see how many ways I can make it funny and interesting.
Yeah.
Or how I'm trying to like show how like say like, well, that's, you know, the last time the first and last time I ever hit somebody. You know.
Yeah. That's very funny. That's a very funny idea to just to hit a female bully. You say you beat up a bully, and everyone's like, yeah. And you're like, yeah, I beat up a female bully. And everyone's like, I don't know.
Right.
So
well,
like,
you know, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, and I feel part of the justification is I was a teenager too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was she older than you or younger?
I think she's a little older.
Yes. Yes. That's great. That's good for you.
And it's like, you know, it's like one of the things that it taught me is you can't solve problems with violence.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, because it made me feel awful.
Yeah.
I mean, she stopped bullying me. I guess I kind of solved the problem.
How was she bullying you? Was she like, she wasn't
Just-
like beating you up. She was just being
No,
verbal.
just verbal stuff, being mean.
Yeah. That's brutal.
So
Yeah. That hurts a lot, but then you can't be physical. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Sure.
lessons where you can't hit women.
Sure.
You know,
Even if they're bullying you.
even if they're bullying, you can't solve problems with violence.
Right. Yeah.
It's just caused more problems. You know.
Sure.
I felt bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. The guilt.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That is an interesting story, though, at the very least. Beating up a female bully is like pretty unique. I don't think I've.
Well, it was one punch, and she
See.
didn't fight back.
Yeah, see. Showing where the power's at. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God forbid I
was
hit you with a
skinnier
second
than
Yeah.
I am now. I mean,
punch.
it's not like I was strong.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I was a nerd.
Right, yeah.
Back when someone saying nerd hurt your feelings.
Right, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, nerd and dork and dweeb, all of those are kind of, if anyone calls you that, it's like, what? It doesn't, like, it's almost like not applicable. It's like, what does that have to do with anything?
Right. I mean,
I'm a
this is,
nerd, okay.
old. That was in the 80s.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it means stuff.
before Revenge of the Nerds came out.
Right, yeah, before you guys became cool. Before Bill Gates,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
became the coolest nerd of all time.
You know,
Yeah.
cool. So, do you ever do roast battles, or you thought about doing roast?
I did a number of roasts in Denver, lost all of them. Did 5 roasts. I'm 0-5. But I was always I think this is my only consolation. I was always the headlining roast. So I was always the headlining roast, lost all of them. But I'm good at riffing in between, and the quips, I'm good at that. And I'm good at getting roasted. Like if someone roasts me, I can make their roast funnier also by my response. So it was always the best show.
Nice.
But I'm not a good roast comic. I've written like 2 good roast jokes ever.
Yeah.
And
Well, I've heard that you're the worst.
I'm terrible. Yeah, I am. I'm terrible at roast jokes. I can't. Because when I'm mean, I'm not trying to be funny. Like I'm trying to be mean. You know, like I'm it's not funny.
Yeah,
it's like
not easy.
it's like cruel.
Yeah.
You know. So like think of roast writing is like such a skill. And every time I did a roast, I was like, I'm good. This is good for writing. This is good writing practice. And then I just didn't do it. And then I like had to write them 30 minutes before the roast, and they were always bad. And I just relied on the quippiness for it to be funny, but I never expected to win. You know, one time I was roasting this fat comic, and then 30 minutes before, she was a friend of mine, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be mean. Like I'm gonna say mean stuff to you. Is that, just like prepare yourself? And she's like, yeah, I'm ready. Just no fat jokes. And I was like, well, that's like, I mean, are you kidding me? That's all I have. That's all I have for fat joke. No fat joke. This is 30 minutes before the roast. You can't, like, if you have like a thing that I can't say, you gotta let me know, like, at the second we know we're roasting each other, you gotta be like, yo, no fat material. Which, first off, if you're getting in a roast, what are you doing? No fat material. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's crazy. It's like a guy with one eye being like, you can't joke about me only having one eye. It's like, okay, are you serious? That's the most obvious thing to joke about. So, you know, it's kind of, yeah, I lost that one.
So what did you talk about then?
I had a few other things about how, I don't know, she can't get guys or something. I don't know. I lost. I forget. It was no good.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just not. And a lot of my friends in Denver, because Denver's a great roast scene. A lot of my friends in Denver are great roasters. They've gone down to the Mothership in Austin for roasts, and they like two of them got on Netflix as a joke for roasts. Like, they're good roasters, great roasters, but they're not thinking of new material all the time anymore. Their whole life is roasting, and they love it and they're good at it. But it does mean you're thinking of less material because all your time is thinking about a new person and how to roast and all this stuff. You know, again, great at writing, really helpful, gave them cool opportunities, but their material is either not as good or not as much because of that.
Sure. Yeah, I've done some roast, and I have another one in March.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think I would want to just switch to roasting. You know?
Yeah.
It's more about like having the audience see me, and then, you know, we're roasting at the Comedy Store La Jolla.
Oh, sweet.
So
you know who you're roasting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Xana Weiss.
Okay.
So,
3 months. I mean,
yeah.
you got some time.
So yeah, definitely. And it's the roast scene in San Diego is kind of taking off because they were doing it once a month, and now in January, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
January is they're gonna start 2 roasts a month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roast scene's kind of picking up because they're really good for clips. Really good clips on Instagram is roasts. So
yeah, for sure.
that's cool. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, and I think I want to like do improv as well. I just have to like
Improv can be helpful.
set aside some money and set aside some time, then try to get in people. I mean, it's hard to like. I mean, you know, get a good group of people. You just like, how do you do that?
It's hard. It's kind of a crapshoot. But I have friends who have done improv, and it really helps them with crowd work. Again, they don't like necessarily go in to do crowd work, but like they're incredible at it because of improv.
Yeah.
So definitely it's a great tool to have for sure.
Right. And then also being able to like switch characters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. So how can people get a hold of you?
Josh Creedon Comedy on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
That's it. I don't have a TikTok. Yeah, that's it. Although, I mean, this might change, but I'm only on Instagram on my computer right now. So just to limit social media intake, so I'm not on it as much.
Okay.
So that's it. So I'll be on it less if you're trying to knock down my door or whatever. But yeah, just Josh Creedon Comedy, CREEDON.
Cool.
On Instagram. Mm-hmm.
All right. So do you have anything coming up in January?
I'm on the show here tomorrow night, January 1st. That'll have gone great.
It was perfect.
It was the best show I've ever done. And then on the 18th, I'm on a show in New York. But this, you said, might come out the 20th. So, not really. Just hopefully the podcast. I'm starting with my buddy Grant Moore, who, it's called Call Him Father, religious podcast. That will hopefully be funny. Although we honestly just talk about religion a lot. Sometimes we're like, oh, we're 2 comics, and we realize this is very funny. We're just talking about God, but still, you know, interesting. So that's kind of fun. And my buddy Grant Moore, he has a special out on Tubi that came out in December. So look that up, Grant Moore, Tubi. It's Tubi's free, so just do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Promoting friends.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So, anything else you want to talk about?
I think I'm good. It's been a lot of fun having me. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So we'll stop this.